Hello YouTube and welcome back to Psychology Every Day, day 58. Today I'm going to answer one of the questions that I got in my question video. I got two questions, so I'll answer the second one in a different clip because I want to make sure to give a thorough answer. And the question is the following. I'm going to switch the screen and we're together. By Siamak Arm Sports. John B. Watson famously claimed that he could train any healthy infant to become any type of specialist, regardless of their background. A real-life comparison is Laszlo Polgar, who intentionally raised his daughters to become chess prodigies, and one of them which became the greatest female player in history. What's your take on nature versus nurture? Do you think such outcomes are primarily the result of environment and training, or is innate ability still a major factor? So let's talk about the history first. This concept by John B. Watson is known as tabula rasa, and he famously claimed that you could raise a child to become anything. Doesn't matter, temperament, genetics, doesn't matter. You can raise a child to be good, to be bad, to be a lawyer, to be a doctor, to be a baker, to be a criminal, doesn't matter. And this was sort of a pendulum backswing against the Freudian psychological theories, which talked about the inner subconscious and our drives and how that affects our life. And the opposite of that, of course, is that it is only the external that affects us and our life. Later, discerned into internal and external locus of control. But let's not get into all of that because then we'll be here for literally 5 hours. But interestingly, this debate has been going on for a long time, and really great minds have, put forth their opinion of it. And Alfred Adler said 100 years ago, the behaviorist does not take into account of the future. I can't read it right now because it's mirrored. And between nature and nurture stands the personal will, which is maybe greater than both. So we claim that, even though nature, sort of genetics, has its, influences on us, and of course, our environment, where we are raised, where we live, will have an effect on us. You also have a unique personal will, and you don't have to really explain it with free will. You can still, use a deterministic theory or whatever, but your personal experience is unique to you. And what you make of it is a unique combination that he separates from these two things. So you have the nurture and you have the nature, but then you also have a unique combination. Now, is it possible that you could do this? And the answer is yes. If you are allowed to do anything, you can train anyone to become anything, but it would be wildly unethical. And we're only talking about behaviorally right now. But if you use, shock collars or, torture or heroin or, extreme measures of positive and negative reinforcements, you can for sure make someone into exactly whatever you want if you have the skill and no morals at all. But according to Jung and Rogers, the greatest clinicians of all time, it would be extremely unhealthy, even if it is for good. Because, and as we see, various people who get, life crisis or meaning crisis because they spent their entire life doing what their parents told them and let them, dictate their life. And even though they are a successful lawyer or whatever, they are wildly unhappy. And also, according to Jung and Rogers a little bit, your inner self will rebel more and more and more until you get some sort of midlife crisis or a psychosis even. So it's not good. Actually, one of Jung's major points is that the later part of your life, perhaps even from age 20 and forward, but certainly from 40 and forwards. One of the points is to actually get rid of all of these imprints that society and other people have bestowed upon you and become your true self. Now, when talking about chess players and athletes in general, I want to introduce to you, for athletic endeavors, the RJ result formula. And now I'm going to pick up the screen and we're going to go through this together. So for athletic endeavors, we have the RJ result formula, and this can be used for anything, but it looks like this in this specific context. So you have 3 different things, and then you rate them. Sorry, I'm dirty. I just painted my floor. And then you multiply them. So if any one of these is 0, the result will be 0. So if you have horribly garbage genetics, you are obsessed, and you have the perfect environment, it will still become 0. If you have amazing genetics and a great environment, but you absolutely do not under any circumstance want to do it, then the result will be 0. If you have perfect genetics and an obsession, but the environment is not, possible. So let's say you have the greatest genetics and the will in the world to become an elite swimmer, but you live in the desert and you can't get out of there, then the results will be 0. You can use this for anything. So let's say for muscle gains, hypertrophy, you multiply your diet with your genetics, with your training. And if any one of them is 0, then the result will be 0. So let's say in this case, you have a decent diet, decent genetics, and decent training, so they are all 0.5, right? Then the result will be, let's see, 0.125. So not very good, but average is not 0.5, because this number will almost always become quite small. If everything is perfect, your diet is perfect, your genetics is perfect, and your training is perfect, so they are all 1.0, then the result will be 1.0. In dating, you rate your personality, and then you rate your looks, and then whatever else that you think is important in dating, and then you multiply them. If you look amazing, but you are the worst person in the world, the result will be 0. If you are an amazing person, but people vomit when they look at you, the result will be 0. And then, you have to insert the result in a standard distribution. Or this is, sort of a perception of mine that I've gotten. And if there is 1,000 competitors in whatever sport you're doing, then 0.25 is good enough. So for instance, maximum will, decent genetics, and decent environment. If there's only 1,000 people competing, this will be enough to become the greatest. However, if there is 10,000 people competing, you need a 0.5. So then, you can mix and match these, however, but then perhaps you also need a perfect environment if your genetics is, decent. So let's say this perhaps was Judith Polgar, who became the greatest, female player in history, because there really isn't a ton of female players, and certainly not back in that day. So who knows if she had, perfect genetics, but she certainly had the perfect environment, better than anyone else probably, because, who trained their daughter at that very young age, and perhaps she had perfect will as well. And for me, I didn't have a perfect diet or whatever, perhaps not perfect genetics, but pretty decent training, and certainly an obsession with bench press and a good enough environment. And there's maybe a thousand bench pressers in that time, and I became number one. So let's look at it like this, because people think that it will work something like this, which is your standard distribution randomly. So if this is the average, you just throw darts, and the more you throw, the some of them are going to land right here or here. Most of them are going to land here, but if you throw 1,000,000 of them, then perhaps someone will land here. That is not how sports in real life work, because there is no randomness, I don't think, in the real world. It works more like this because it is a competition, and people are going to improve based on the field that they're playing in. So even though it may be, a combination of the both, you had like, what's his name? Karelin, who was way above the field. This is usually how it's going to look, because all of these people are sort of close to each other and push the boundaries of each other. And this is what it looks like if it's 1,000 people, and this is what it looks like if it's 10,000 people, and if it's 100,000 people, it gets a lot more difficult. So the importance of genetics is dependent when talking about becoming as great, winning nationals or whatever. It depends a lot on how many people that are competing. Obviously, it's so much easier to become number one in arm wrestling in Sweden than becoming the best soccer player or the best hockey player. But circling back to the nature versus nurture, it has been shown in twin studies that genetics do play a huge part in your behavior and your occupation and where you go in life, because there has been studies with twins where they got separated at birth, and then when they're 18, these researchers or scientists find them both, and it's crazy how similar they are. In one case, they were even playing the same instrument. They had the same hairstyle. Their boyfriends, this was a pair of female twins, even their boyfriends looked similar, and these two had been separated at birth, right? But no matter what, this is an external view compared to the internal view, which is that your will matters more than both of these combined. And that is true, I think, because if you don't, the difference between not trying and being obsessed with something is going to make the biggest difference, right? So, if I want to be a race car driver, if I never even get into a car and drive because I don't want to, then I will be horribly garbage at it. But even if, I'm whatever genetically, if I spend 10 times more time on the racetrack than anyone else, if that is possible, then I will certainly be, in the top 0.1%. And I think that's sort of a hard cap, perhaps, or for average people, is the top 0.1%. If you absolutely dedicate your entire life to something, no matter if, unless there's something, wrong with you, then I do believe that you can reach the top 0.1%, which is amazing. But in the terms of, becoming the best runner in the world, it's nowhere near good enough. I don't remember exactly, but I think the top 3% in IQ is what is considered a genius, so 145 IQ or higher. And these people sometimes feel absolutely retarded compared to people with 175, right? So I hope that answers your questions. And anyone that wants their questions answered, just ask them in any comment field. And please like and subscribe, and have a great day, everyone.